Hey everyone, today we have a topic I'm honestly shocked that has become official as fast as it did. Maybe one of the biggest new law changes we've seen in the real estate industry lately. And I had a chance to sit down with an attorney this week and go over some of the questions everyone seems to have about this new law. So let's jump in. So Massachusetts passed an inspection law under the Affordable Homes Act, which was signed by Maura Healey in August of 2024. Now there's new regulation that protects home buyers' rights to properly do an inspection and limit the ability of sellers to push buyers to skip inspections. So there's three things we're going to talk about today: the ins and outs of the new law, why it was created, and exemptions. So let's dive in. So first off, the ins and outs of the law: sellers cannot condition the acceptance of an offer on the buyer agreeing to waive, limit, forego a home inspection. Sellers also cannot accept an offer if they have been informed in advance that the buyer intends to waive the inspection. The buyer still has the right to choose not to have an inspection, but the decision must be made free from pressure or influence from the sellers or a seller's agent. Now, a new separate written disclosure has to be provided to the seller stating the buyer's right to an inspection before entering into a purchase contract. Now, the new regulation applies to residential sales from single families to 1 units to 4-unit buildings, condos, multifamilies, all that. I should mention there are some exemptions from the law, like certain family transfers from one family member to another, new construction with a 1-year warranty, foreclosures, auctions. So any type of transaction where there's another layer of safety in there. So I had a chance to sit down with a local attorney and go over some of the questions or maybe workarounds, and his answer was there really aren't any. This is a very straightforward law, and you could be in danger of losing your license if you try to kind of squeak your way around it. And here's some of the languages within the law. You cannot condition sale or offer acceptance on a buyer waiving inspection. You cannot accept an offer if you know the buyer intends to waive inspection. You must provide the separate disclosure form to the buyer, signed by both parties, affirming the buyer's inspection right. It also states to be mindful of language in your contract that may underwrite the inspection effectiveness. For example, you cannot enforce terms that make access impossible or remove withdrawal rights based solely on inspection. Reasonable negotiation thresholds, deposits, all these things are still allowed. Now, compliance is very serious. Violations may be treated as unfair or deceptive practices under the state consumer protection law, MGL C93A. So make sure your agent understands this process, knows what you're dealing with. Now let's jump to the next question. You might be wondering, why was this law created? And does our government have the right to push some new law like this? Should it be appealed? Now, if you look at how our country has always practiced its governance, and that's typically passed down from federal to the state level, we believe in empowering the people, right? And open free markets. But when the people are at risk and there's a greater force or entity that's taking advantage or negatively affecting the people, that's when the government tries to step in and regulate. Now, we've seen examples of this, right? In 2008, prior to 2008, there was very little regulation. Lending, banks told the government, hey, it's our money. We want to choose how we lend it to people, how much, at what rate. The government stepped back, let them do their thing. Intel, well, banks realized that having people in debt and paying huge late fees was actually financially beneficial to them. So the government stepped in. They created stricter debt to income laws, ratios, certain laws around credit scores. So they put restrictions in place to protect the people. So in this circumstance, the Massachusetts Inspection Union, so like state inspectors, they're the ones that stepped in and were like, hey, people are taking advantage of here. Everyone's waiving their inspection. It's just something they have to do because it's such a competitive market. We need the government to step in and protect buyers from themselves. So it's a little bit of a gray area. It's kind of funny because like the buyers are also the sellers about to become a buyer. They were a buyer when they bought the house. So there's a lot of gray area here. And I'll also say, I think this is kind of a nice time for this new law to come into play. If this was an insane seller's market and people were waiving inspection left and right still, it would be a little abrupt to bring this new law in. But I think with the market being a little more balanced now, some homes sitting a little longer on the market, and a lot of people doing inspections right now, it's kind of a good time to ease this law in where it probably doesn't change a majority of the transactions. And then as it kind of revs back up into a seller's market one day, we'll kind of start getting used to it, each seller. So, and overall, I am really happy that a lot of my buyers get inspections. And for agents, I think there's really some creative ways you can actually use this to leverage, make offers more unique in how you do your inspection. And I'm not gonna go too much into that. You can DM me if you have more questions on inspections, but honestly, let's jump right into the third part, my opinion. I don't totally love it, I don't totally hate it. In theory, I think it's great that everyone, before they make such a huge purchase, can inspect their property. The other side of the scale there is like, I don't love when the government just starts making like more and more rules and regulating like how I'm allowed to sell my own house. I think like if there's two parties and they talk, they agree on something, and they're both like adults, they should be able to make a contract, hire an attorney, make a contract on their own. But I do see the benefit of it. I also like it because I feel like it makes the market a little more challenging. And as agents, we're gonna have to get a little bit more creative, which is good for me because our team, I think we thrive in being creative and thinking outside the box and kind of going that extra mile. And we've seen a lot of new laws, from commission laws, inspection laws, and more. And as we've seen those new regulations kind of come into play, we've actually increased the number of families we've helped every year. And I just feel like we use these new laws when the market gets more difficult to thrive and stand out. So I kind of hope it gets harder every year. I hope there's new laws coming onto the real estate market that make it more challenging for agents, because then I think certain ones kind of stand out a little bit. So overall, I'm fine with the law. I think it's gonna really bring in some new opportunity, and I think the good agents are gonna know how to get creative to make this even better for them. So if you guys have any questions, let me know what you think. Do you like the law as a seller? Do you not like the law? The comments are right here. Feel free to share below. Give me a like and subscribe if you don't mind. Hope you had a great week, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.